Hello! Okay, that's enough small talk. Let's get to the point. 2020 was certainly a year, and for me a lot of that year was defined by two major things. A majority of my time at home playing video games, and a majority of my time at home not being able to go to the gym. Thankfully there was one video game that perfectly combined these two qualities and ended up becoming my favorite thing to do during that time. I am of course referring to Jump Rope Challenge, a free application that has your Joy-Cons poorly imitating a jump rope. With Ring Fit Adventure coming in at a close second. Okay, let me get this right out of the way. Ring Fit Adventure, an exercise RPG hybrid where you make virtual smoothies and face off against a buff dragon, is easily the greatest fitness game ever made. Yeah, that's right, suck it, Yooka-Laylee. It's truly an exceptional package, and I say this as both a big fan of video games as well as with a false sense of authority as a certified personal trainer. That's right, I am indeed a personal trainer. I got my license in January 2020, landed a job as a gym sales guy with the goal of transitioning into coaching classes. And then 2 months later, the American fitness industry collapsed for some reason. My focus today won't be fully from the trainer perspective though, but if you're wondering, yes, it is entirely possible to maintain your physical fitness and or lose weight by only playing Ring Fit Adventure and eating healthy. If you want to learn more about that, I highly recommend checking out Master Trainer Peter, a really cool guy who makes videos about maximizing the game's potential, among other things. Link to his channel in the description. Instead, I want to focus on some of the things I love about the game, mainly from the perspective of a massive exercise junkie and Nintendo fan. Ring Fit Adventure's main campaign does so many things right. It not only functions as a legitimately fun and engaging video game, but it does so in a way that is always based on fitness fundamentals, making for a package that almost perfectly succeeds at what it's trying to accomplish. Almost. I'll talk about why I use that word at the end. And believe it or not, major Ring Fit Adventure spoilers ahead. Ring Fit Adventure was initially revealed in September 2019 with a pair of just the weirdest trailers. Don't fall for their tricks, everybody. These two freaks obviously just committed massive tax fraud and they're trying to distract us by acting way too excited about an exercise game. All jokes aside, after watching that bizarre second trailer, I almost lost interest in picking up the game entirely. I don't know, I don't like feeling pandered to, and Nintendo has this problem where they sometimes act like their fans are big dumb babies who couldn't possibly understand concepts like exercise. Easily one of the cringier things they produced in recent memory. Their marketing during the Switch era has been pretty stellar, but yeah, definitely not their hottest moment. Anyway, releasing worldwide 1 month after that travesty on October 18th, 2019, the game did pretty well after launch, selling almost 3 million units by the end of that year. And then a few months later, the earth caught fire and sales absolutely skyrocketed. Things got so out of control that despite being priced $20 higher than other AAA titles, Ring Fit was harder to find than I don't know, what was another popular game during that time? The Last of Us 2? Sure, why not? It's not hard to understand why. Not only were gyms closing left and right, but the buzz around the game was largely positive from both critics and fans alike. The game isn't skimping on the content side of things either. Aside from the beefy 40+ hour adventure mode as well as 2 harder runs unlocked after completion, there's other stuff like the ability to create custom workout playlists, various minigames available on demand, and features that were added in later such as a jogging mode and a rhythm game that most people seem to like but I just don't really care for. Yes, I completely recognize that there's something wrong with me. I'm sorry. But my adoration mainly lies with the game's adventure mode, a legitimate adventure propped up by a surprisingly engaging story to boot. I already alerted you of the spoilers, so I'm gonna jump right in. The game has you teaming up with a talking plastic ring, wonderfully named Ring, in order to face off against his old friend, a cocky buff dragon named Drago who's been possessed by an evil purple fog called the Dark Influence. As an aside, I find it funny that Nintendo tends to associate the color purple with the theme of evil. Off the top of my head, we have Waluigi, Majora's Mask, and of course Paper Mario Sticker Star. Maybe the color purple f***ed a producer's wife or something, I don't know. Anyway, in addition to battling it out with one of the absolute greatest Nintendo villains of all time, I'm not joking, the story throws various twists and turns at you as well. Other narrative standouts are the 4 Masters, 4 humans who are trying to help you on your quest before they themselves are possessed by the same evil that's controlling Drago, useless traitors. It's important to talk about the story because it really does a great job of reinforcing the game's overall perspective on fitness. See, some people might believe that if they're not pushing themselves 110% of the time, or if they're not bulging with cartoon Greek god 8-pack abs, they're effectively failing themselves and might as well give up. That's not an uncommon thought, but it's just simply not true. Fitness is more about health, habit, and maintenance, traits that Ring Fit Adventure constantly drills into your head at all times. After every 15 minutes or so of activity, the game asks if you'd like to wrap things up for the day. Ring frequently chimes in reminding you to go drink some water. And the game is filled with messages and tips reminding you to go easy on yourself if you're tired or sore or just need a break. These tips, in my opinion, are critical to the game's overall vibe, and it ties into the story just about perfectly. So pretty much, the dark influence possessing Drago and the Four Masters is a form of their own insecurities, their fears of inadequacy, and their toxic desires of being the absolute best at all costs. They're not bad characters in the sense that they truly mean no harm in their not possessed forms, though to be fair, the game even acknowledges that Drago ends up doing a lot of f***ed up shit, like I think at one point he killed a bunch of kids? I don't know, it's a long story, I honestly can't remember. But my point is that the game makes it clear that the only thing holding these characters back are themselves, and their obsession with exercise that pushes them to unhealthy lengths. The game never deviates away from this central message no matter where the story goes, which all culminates in a couple of boss encounters that just... Jesus Christ, they are really good final boss encounters. It's important to take this story as literally as a story about a talking plastic ring could possibly be taken. See, fitness is a marathon, not a sprint.
That's what we in the fitness business like to call a silly jogging analogy.
At the end of the day, if you're pushing yourself so hard that you hate yourself and your body is begging you to stop, or you're so obsessed with your physical image that that becomes the only reason why you're exercising anymore, you're actually harming yourself and need to cool it down a bit. Ring Fit is a game that fully understands this, and it does a great job of balancing this message with an overall interesting tale full of likable characters and engaging situations, in a way that makes it a legitimately enjoyable game as much as it is a successful fitness routine. Speaking of this being a game, Ring Fit Adventure is in fact a true RPG experience that you yourself are a part of. Look, this game isn't that deep or complex, like it's definitely not going to win any awards at the RPGZs or anything. In addition, I'm generally not even a big RPG guy myself. Maybe one day I'll give Yoshi's Crafted World a shot, but besides that one, games in the genre just don't catch my attention, to be honest. But the bizarre concept of fitness RPG is an idea that the developers really pushed to its fullest potential without losing sight of the game's status as a fitness tool, and it's now on the very short list of RPGs that I actually truly enjoy. Here are just some examples of what it does to fit into the genre. As the game goes on, you learn a few new skills for Ring, including the ability to hop over hordes of enemies to skip combat encounters, which, in my opinion, fundamentally changes how the game plays. You earn XP and level up consistently, and leveling up comes with rewards such as increasing your max health. You unlock new outfits to wear and smoothies to make, which all have their own buffs and special abilities attached to them. You eventually get a skill tree, an actual legit skill tree that takes real time to work through, in a fitness game. And of course, you unlock lots and lots of fit skills. For the unindoctrinated, fit skills are the various strength training moves you perform while in combat, all of which primarily target either your arms, abs, legs, or balancing ability. When you first start the game, you only have a few to choose from, all fundamentals such as squats and knees to chests, and by the end you'll be able to equip 10 at a time out of a total of 43. These skills increase in complexity and in-game strength as you unlock them, and they're all color coordinated so you can attack enemies with their corresponding color in order to murder them a bit more efficiently. Aside from jogging in place, these fit skills will always be how you engage with the game. There are even moments where they organically sprinkle these moves into the jogging section, such as having you perform squats in order to power up a little car, or doing overhead pulls to activate this weird zipline thing. This, by the way, is just some incredible game design because they found a way to incorporate the strength exercises into so many other activities. I really like and respect these decisions, and the developers did an amazing job balancing fitness with actual engaging gameplay. Also, and I think this is critical, while the adventure mode is a fairly guided experience overall, lending itself a bit of a personal trainer quality since you're always being given objectives and tasks to do within it, the fit skills offer a lot of important leeway and player choice. Like, if you want to hop into adventure mode for 30 minutes and only focus on balance, you can do that. Or, if you're like me, you can build a fairly balanced roster of moves to cycle between. While you're almost always in charge of what skills you equip, as well as how many smoothies you make and what clothes your character wears, like I said, the adventure is one that you're definitely being guided on at all times. You're pretty much always plopped in an overworld jogging section, or a minigame, or a section targeting just one muscle group, or a combat encounter. And while this might sound repetitive, the game does a great job of bouncing around between these options, which avoids things ever spinning out into a boring rut. I personally prefer the game setting goals and objectives for me, which is why I gravitate towards adventure mode above the others. Yes, I am a personal trainer, but sometimes I just don't feel like personal training myself. And I'm really happy with how the game paces out its various activities. You can tell that a lot of thought went into this to keep the player fully engaged. See, I'm not sure if I said this already, but Ring Fit Adventure is a very good fitness game. But what's a good fitness game without good controls? This is where I want to give a bit of a shout out to Ring Fit Adventure's shining achievement, Ring. Remarkably, despite it being 1/3 of the final title, Ring Fit Adventure's concept didn't originally feature a ring at all. According to translations from Twitter user PushDustin, which I'll link in the description, the game was originally going to be more of a jogging simulator type deal, achieved by holding a Joy-Con in each hand and accompanied by mimicking boxing moves in the combat sequences. They then developed the final product's leg strap to allow for more dynamic movement options. Then somebody thought, hey, this is starting to get a bit nutty, let's add a fucking Pilates ring into the mix. Kind of a strange train of logic there. I'd love to pop whatever that person was on when they thought that developing an advanced Pilates ring would make things more simple than just holding a Joy-Con in one hand and strapping another to your leg. But I'm not complaining because it got us an incredible little piece of technology that benefits the overall package in so many ways. See, when looking at other games in the fitness genre, they're generally limited to whatever controllers come packaged with the console they're on. This becomes a major obstacle because these heavy chunks of plastic were made to play Adventures of Lolo, damn it, not help you get into shape. You can see that in games like the aforementioned Jump Rope Challenge as well as Fitness Boxing, both fine titles in their own right, but the Joy-Con's gyroscopes just weren't made to track such specific motions as individual jump rope jumps and swinging punches. So half the time when I play Fitness Boxing, it doesn't register my motions. It just makes me so angry, and that anger makes me want to throw everything out the window and give up. It's so frustrating and intrusive. So with most fitness games, what you end up getting is a decent, if not repetitive, activity simulator that only works maybe 70% of the time if you're lucky, and can lead to fatigue and frustration pretty quickly. The only well-known exception to this that I'm aware of is Nintendo's previous foray into the fitness gaming genre, the Wii Fit Balance Board, a plastic scale that could detect weight and when a person would shift in balance while standing on it. That thing wasn't terrible, in fact it worked pretty decently, but the problem with that one was that it was an inherently simple device that didn't lend itself to the ambitions of the games it was paired with. Like, there's a lot you can do with turning the action of balance into a video game, but not a lot that can be developed into a real, actual fitness experience. There's yoga, of course, and the minigames were fun, but they definitely weren't really much in terms of actual exercise. So while it was a very novel concept that I do have a lot of respect for, it was unfortunately gimped due to just not lending itself to enough actual exercise activities. But Ring Fit Adventure avoids the problem of imprecise and limited controls thanks entirely to Ring. Nintendo didn't invent Pilates rings, but I'm pretty confident that they're the first company that made one with advanced technology inside. I'm not gonna suddenly pretend that I'm a smart guy. I don't have a doctorate in Pilates ring technology or anything, so I won't act like I understand how this thing works internally, but it really does work and it gives me virtually no issues whatsoever. Not only does it function as intended, but it opens up so many opportunities for different and unique exercise moves that just couldn't be done in any other game. I think that's why it baffled me so much to learn that they came up with the ring after developing the leg strap. This game just wouldn't work without it, or at least without something very much like it. Additionally, the fact that this thing can take up to like 50 pounds of resistance allows the game to have moves that require quick, repetitive squeezing or pulling. But its general accuracy also means that moves can require the player to hold or squeeze it in place for seconds at a time without it accidentally thinking that you let go. This is impressive stuff. Again, this is a plastic ring connected to a controller that is most famous for its sticks f***ing up after only 2 weeks of light use. So the fact that this thing is as seamless as it is definitely deserves recognition. It also reminds me of a time when Nintendo was known for building quality, durable hardware, but that's a conversation for another day. To wrap up my various points, the game's story is engaging and has a great message, the gameplay is surprisingly in-depth, the fitness experience is a legitimately challenging one, the hardware that comes with it is outstanding and lends itself to all sorts of activities, and overall this is a package that truly understands the importance of turning exercise into a habit, and helps push the player to do so in a fun and encouraging way. It really is an almost perfect exercise game.
Almost!
As a brief intermission, allow me to share my favorite and least favorite fit skills in the game. My favorite fit skill is the thigh press, which targets the hip adductors and allows me to sit down while doing them. I like doing thigh presses because there aren't many other ways we naturally target our inner hip muscles during our day-to-day lives, and I also like the fact that it's pretty much the only move in the game that allows me to sit on my tired ass and check my phone while performing it. My least favorite fit skill, on the other hand, is easily the mountain climbers, because they just don't f***ing work! Which leads me to my final point. Ladies and gentlemen, here are my problems with Ring Fit Adventure. Look, Ring Fit is still a great game. Most of these are just gonna be nitpicks, honestly. The minigames are a big one. They're all either too focused on pure fun at the expense of fitness, like Squattery Wheel, or they're too focused on fitness and thus become a chore, like Dreadmill. There are a couple that are alright, and I get that they're pace breakers, but I really could have done without them, and I feel that they become repetitive quite quickly. Some of them are finicky to control as well, and definitely needed more time in the oven, but I'm usually able to work around their general jankiness, so it's whatever. Here's another one. I really wish that the game included genuinely hard post-game content, not just a couple New Game Plus modes that are just the same run again, but with the enemies scaled up in difficulty. Though the fact that there are 2 New Game Plus options makes it a bit more forgivable in my eyes, considering how long it takes to beat each one. I love the fact that the game features multiple unique worlds to explore while running, though there are only a few of them in total and they do repeat themselves quite often. Overall, I just wish there was a bit more level variety. Same with the enemies. I love all of their bizarre designs that are based on real-world fitness equipment, but I just wish there were a few more of them in total. Also, I hate this piece of yoga mat that regenerates his or his buddy's health after each turn. I get why he exists and these sorts of mechanics are common in RPGs, but in my opinion the mechanic of a regenerating bad guy is really frustrating and tedious in a fitness game where it feels a little too punishing to have to see your progress negated by this dumb floating asshole. Thankfully, I play the game while standing on one of his dead cousins, which makes me feel a little bit better. But again, these are all nitpicks, none of them get in the way of my greater enjoyment of the game. But the game has one single glaring flaw that jeopardizes the entire experience for me. It's a problem that anybody who's played the game can surely understand. Strap in, everybody, because I'm about to scream about a strap of fabric with Velcro glued to it for a few minutes. The leg strap in this game sucks. It might be a necessary evil, but it sucks and diminishes the overall experience in a pretty unfortunate way. Remember how earlier I pointed out the fact that most fitness games are limited by controllers that aren't designed solely for fitness games? Remember how earlier I criticized fitness boxing for misreading or outright missing motions because the Joy-Con gyros are just not precise enough to detect that sort of thing? Well, the leg strap is just a sleeve that you shove a Joy-Con into, wrap around your upper thigh, and boom, inefficient. This thing is just not precise at all because again, it's a controller in a sleeve. Joy-Cons just weren't made for this. Look, the Joy-Cons are advanced pieces of hardware. They can effectively mimic the feeling of a zipper unzippering in Super Mario Odyssey, so there's obviously some magic shoved in there somewhere. But unfortunately, Ring Fit Adventure without the ring is exactly like the GameCube video game Finding Nemo. It just doesn't work, and I hate it with every ounce of fiber in my being. Quite a few moves in the game require you to put down the ring and perform motions relying solely on the leg strap. That brings us atrocities like the planks, and besides the fact that these are the most bizarre planks I've ever seen in my life, they require a comical and even dangerous amount of movement for the game to ever register them correctly. Some players have found a neat trick where you can convince the game you're doing planks by doing push-ups instead, and yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I do it that way too. The game is lacking a pretty strong chest move anyway, so it actually works out pretty well. But then there's my least favorite move in the game, the mountain climbers. The mountain climbers are pure demonic trash. There's no easy, consistent way to cheese them like the planks to push-up method. The game doesn't register them more than half the time, and it gets to the point where players might get so frustrated that they could actually risk injury by pulling their legs too far up in order to get the stupid thing to just work. Damn it, just work! Thankfully, the game doesn't include too many fit skills that only use the strap, but there are some other examples where the issue becomes apparent outside of battles. For example, several sections require you to lift your knees in order to effectively jog up stairs or through bodies of water. These sections aren't as disgusting as the mountain climbers, but I swear to God, half the time I just can't get these motions to work, and I end up trying my best to hop over them now because I don't feel like screaming at my left leg while I exercise. I have better things to do with my time, such as screaming about a piece of fabric on the internet. I can think of a few solutions to this problem. The most obvious one is that the game shouldn't have relied on the leg strap alone in the first place. No stairs, no water, no mountain climbers, nothing. But that would suck because those moves are good ones mechanically, they're just non-functioning, so even if they toned down the hit detection and allowed the game to read these motions more liberally, that'd be much better in my eyes. Which leads me to my second solution. Toning down the hit detection with these moves and allowing the game to read these motions more liberally. Maybe doing so would allow players to cheese these difficult sections, but it's better for players to push themselves too little versus too much in my opinion, simply because pushing yourself too much risks injury. Wow, saying that out loud, I'm legitimately surprised that Nintendo shipped the game out in its current condition. This is the same company that got sued over ripped open palms caused by f***ing Mario Party 1. The third solution, which would be feasible if the company works on a sequel or maybe even some paid DLC, is just a better alternative to the leg strap. I already stated earlier that I don't have a doctorate in Pilates ring technology, and I am ashamed to admit that I also lack a degree in the fundamentals of leg straps, but I thought about the issue for a good solid while, and the best idea I could come up with is something that you could wrap around your waist with some built-in technology to track your entire lower body. And maybe the Joy-Con clicks into place on one of the sides, or maybe the technology is entirely self-reliant like the Wii Fit balance board, but this would require players to wear it directly on their skin, and it would be more susceptible to sweat messing everything up. up, so I can understand Nintendo vetoing the concept. But what if they just made a leg strap with some technology built inside of it? Better sensors that are built specifically for Ring Fit rather than designing Ring Fit around the limitations of a Joy-Con alone. Maybe there's a reason why they didn't do it this way, or maybe it just drive costs up too much, but come on, the boys down at Nintendo have to figure something out here. Look, I moan because I love. I genuinely think that Ring Fit Adventure is one of the greatest things Nintendo's created in a long time. It's a marvel of a game and succeeds at what it was designed to do, but that leg strap really prevents it from being as good as it could possibly be. But would I still recommend Ring Fit Adventure? Well, as a personal trainer, yes, it is a perfectly sufficient exercise routine, though again, if you want to lose weight, exercise alone is never enough. It's time to start counting calories, my friend. Would I recommend it as Nintendo YouTuber Die? Absolutely! It's packed with charm, more than worth the price, and represents Nintendo at their creative and bizarre best. It also features Drago. I can't stress enough how much I love this weird freak of a villain. If this company has any backbone, they will add him into Mario Kart yesterday. I'm really glad I found this game. To be honest, in many ways, it feels like it was made just for me. It speaks to my exact sensibilities and has a message that I fully love and resonate with. It also came in handy during a very nutty year, and I truly appreciate it for that. But it wasn't made for me. Who do I think I am? And thank God too, because it's a quality title that anybody and everybody should check out, at least if you're into this sort of thing. In conclusion, please play Ring Fit Adventure. It might not be perfect, but it's almost perfect, and honestly, sometimes that's good enough. Also, the soundtrack is fantastic.
Rambling about the game for that long actually got me to break out into a bit of a sweat, which means I don't have to play this garbage anymore.